My name is Jacob Adams. I'm a fitness and leadership coach. I help people just like you get to the next level, whether it's in the gym, getting that next personal record, increasing energy, dropping body fat, gaining muscle, or helping people get on world-class supplementation to get that edge, or dialing in nutrition programs, and even establishing winning mindsets and strategies to help push you through to that next level. Recently, I went through, in audible format, Ben Shapiro's new book, The Right Side of History. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. Again, this is all by memory. So recently, well, first off, Ben Shapiro, if you're not so familiar with him, maybe you've heard of the book, maybe you just heard of Ben Shapiro, not his new book, whatever it is the case. When I first encountered, Ben Shapiro's stuff, I think it was just like, okay, good for him. He speaks fast and cool and stuff like that. And I've grown to really like Ben Shapiro's perspectives. He can be, to me, maybe a little too staunch, in his views. Very decided to the point where, he can be a little bit even alienating myself. When I say even, I think, like I said, I'm a buyer of his book. I agree with him in many, many ways, in many positions. For example, I think he helped me even kind of sway me into no longer being so pro-choice or so readily into abortion. And that's a good way to segue into his book, right? Because, his position is he's been called a radical conservative, right? And to which he said, well, there's no such thing as a normal conservative, so I'm going to embrace it. This concept of being a radical conservative. And since I agree with him in many counts, I'm sure I actually consider myself more of a moderate conservative. When I've taken those tests, I kind of come out a little bit to the right, just ever so slightly. And I thought I like to have a balanced perspective. And getting into his book, not to get long-winded here, he has two key ideas, or his big overarching framework looks like this. America, or the United States of America, was primarily founded and inspired by the church or faith, or the teachings of faith and Moses and everything that comes from the Jewish tradition, etc., and the origins of that, and also the origins of Athens, or Greek philosophy and thought and logic. Okay? And his main idea then is that if we don't stay anchored into these roots of American culture, the American frameworks for the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, if we don't stay grounded in the roots and value systems of our forefathers, then we dilute our overall abundance and everything that's come from the roots of those philosophies. And I couldn't agree more, because I'm very much into fundamentals. I remember it was Michael Jordan who said, when I stop practicing the fundamentals of my game, that's when the bottom of my game just falls off. In other words, the foundation of anything is built on fundamentals. People that want to eat well have to embrace a lower sugar diet. It's part of the fundamental of healthy eating. Yeah, so are there some exceptions where sugar is 100% fine 100% of the time? I suppose. But most people in this country that are overweight, for example, have to face the fundamental idea that sugar needs to be removed from the diet. So does processed foods, processed breads, white breads, etc., etc. Now, I'm tying this into Ben Shapiro's book because, again, this is why I agree with him. Because, yeah, it makes sense that, for example, the Declaration of Independence begins with, we believe these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal with the freedom to chase and acquire prosperity, freedom, abundance, and happiness, etc., etc. Now that came from a lot of the philosophy of spiritual teachings from, he refers to it as Jewish, like a Jewish core, like, you know, the book of Moses and stuff like that. Now, I am a Christian and I do practice meditation, so I like to say I'm a Christian yogi. And that said, when I think of Ben Shapiro and how he's consistently tying it all in to, you know, the church and Greek philosophy and logic. So let's say for instance the Declaration of Independence. We believe these truths to be self-evident, all men are created equal, etc., etc., right? Let's say if that holds true to you. Well, Shapiro is saying that comes from an origin of faith. Now you could say, well, I disagree, etc., etc. Well, that's fine. That's a disagreement then. You know, I am reviewing the book, and so I am saying I do agree that it does come from, you know, the Ten Commandments, everything like this. That is where a lot of our laws were designed around, like the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not this, thou shalt not that, etc., etc., right? So we know that is the case in our laws. Or at least I've always known, like, as, you know, I think back 20 years ago, I saw the correlation. I was like, well, the laws are pretty much the Ten Commandments. Like, there's a lot of correlation there. And obviously, if you break one of those commandments, typically things don't end up going so great for you. Like, even as much as being jealous or like coveting your neighbor's goods, right? Let's just say that's a general, like, how does that's not really illegal, is it? But like, you don't want that. I think that, like, that particular sin, it says this is not a good aspect of humanity. Like, this is not what you want to celebrate. This covetousness of, like, and I really think that's more about jealousy than it is about actually wanting, you know, something that, like, let's say your neighbor could have chicken right now. You wanting some chicken too does not make you coveting your neighbor's goods. Not by my understanding, which is, like, I'm just using, I would see it more like, let's just say, if you want something kind of instead of the person that has it, like, if you're like, well, that person has a pair of shoes, or, you know, I know that some women like Louis Vuittons. Well, that woman has Louis Vuittons. Not only do I want them, but I don't want her to have them, right? That would be a pretty good, like, picture of, to me, the sin of covetousness, right? It's almost like, do you really want that in your consciousness? So the sins weren't necessarily, to me, as far as I've analyzed them, they're really not about, like, only breaking a law as much as, like, an internal law, like an internal peace. So, for example, you know, imagine how you'd have to feel to be covetous, if you'd have a lot of covetousness in yourself, right? Imagine how you'd have to feel, how you would feel inside. Like, I myself, let's say I was watching some videos, one of my mentors making some cool videos on YouTube, you know, and I felt like he really wanted me to be successful too. And so I remember I was laying in bed and I was like, you know what? That's such a good thing. That's such a good thing that he wants me to be successful too. See, like, it's very, and in that respect, I'm happy that he's achieved what he's achieved. So there's not that covetousness type attitude. Like, I wish he didn't have that. I wish he weren't achieving this. Or, does that make sense? So it's more of an internal consciousness. Now, going back to the book, Shapiro goes into many things like religion and how like the church helped unionize a lot of kings and queens, etc., etc. And that's the general idea. Like, I think that this book, when it's all said and done, let's just say this, I'll wrap up this review. When it's all said and done, Shapiro makes us, the listener, at the very least, respect the origins of our country, the United States of America. And in that respect, he also gives us targets by which to honor logic, philosophy, and faith. And with these two targets, we, patriots of the country, people that love the United States of America, people that call this home, we now have something to manifest both within ourselves, speak, share, and act as guidelines by which to continue to propagate that which has propagated us, that which has allowed us to be abundant. And so in closing, I do love the book and the way it ended. For someone like myself who's pretty devoted to searching for God in my heart, in life, and in my daily activities, I felt it was refreshing to know that this is a pillar of our country, faith. And to engage in it doesn't make you an oddball. As a matter of fact, your forefathers and your lineage before you and the people that founded our country understood that God and faith were a big, important part of our fabric. And still further, to understand that logic and the war between science and religion was something that started as early as the 1900s or late 1800s with Galileo saying the world was flat. And we have seen this collision between religion and science for all of the 20th century and well into 2019. So people that have faith, people that truly sincerely love God and logic and science, truly then are engaging with America. One could say that with pretty strong confidence. And I'll say it again. To embrace both faith and science is the ultimate act of an American. This is what Ben Shapiro has led me to feel, believe, and act on. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the book, on Ben Shapiro, whatever it is. This was fun, a little different than the style of my other videos and techniques and strategies and thoughts. But yeah, I'm Jacob Adams. Comment below your thoughts on the book, what you liked, what you didn't like. I kept it pretty short and just spoke from the heart. Love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you next time. Bye.